There has been some internal debate amongst my Marvel Legends figures on who the best Build-A-Figure is, so I decided to gather up my top 7 and set the record straight. So, hopping right into it, coming in at number 7 is none other than dun, 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 Dude Thor. So this came from one of the Avengers lines. Uh, love this figure, love the design, love the character in the movie. In my opinion, why he is probably the bottom of my Build-A-Figure Marvel Legends figures is because he's just tiny. He's not as epic as the other Build-A-Figure pieces. So if you look behind him, just the massive stature, like those are giant legs that come with an extra piece, and you put them together. They're larger than life. They don't fit in normal packaging. Look at him compared to all the others. You can just tell he could have very easily been a really cool, just regular figure packed in. So, although I love the figure compared to the Build-A-Figure pieces, I would say number 7. And number 6, we have Gladiator Hulk from Thor Ragnarok. This is another just absolutely amazing design. Makes sense as a Build-A-Figure piece. My problem with it is some of the accessories. So you can see the helmet doesn't quite fit on, covers his eyes a little bit. That I can get past. It's the weapons, however. You can see the plastic that they're made of from the weight of them. Just over time they bend, which I feel like if they were just made with a slightly different plastic, they would have been just a much better accessory, especially for a Build-A-Figure piece. Like, I don't know. It just, for something, it takes it away from the figure for me. But from the design, absolutely love the figure. He's got flip-flops that actually flip and flop, which is fantastic. I had another Build-A-Legends figure who I purposely omitted from this challenge, who was the Joe Fixit character, but I thought having 2 Hulks in there it was just too much Hulk. So I opted for the Ragnarok figure, which, in my opinion, is a better Build-A-Figure than Joe Fixit. So now we are looking for number 5. Who's it gonna be? Any one of these of you? All right, we have the Green Minotaur, Rintrah, from Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. I think I got that right. I really like this figure. I don't necessarily know too much about the character. Even in the movie, he was really just a side character in the background. Great CGI, looked amazing. The figure itself is really tough to stand, just because he's got those Minotaur legs. But I have a personal love for any figure that is a anthropomorphic, human-looking animal. So goes back to the time of Ninja Turtles, but Mythic Legions figures, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. So this figure kind of fits right in, and it honestly was not that expensive to collect. So a lot of the Doctor Strange figures ended up going on clearance after the movie came out, and I was able to piece them together pretty quickly. Another thing you could do is you could just get the character that comes with the head, then you could really just put it on any body. So now we have Minotaur, which is a pretty cool figure. So, I don't know, it leaves you with options. So now we have my top 4, and this is where the challenge really starts because all of these Build-A-Figures are absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 4 is Sugarman from the Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse was a really great kind of alternate universe storyline of the X-Men. There was a lot of just really cool character designs, kind of re-imaging of the storylines and the outfits. And Sugarman was in there. He was kind of like a crime boss. He only appeared, I think, in 1 or 2 episodes. His look was very memorable, so I think that's why he makes a good Build-A-Figure piece. Probably wouldn't sell well in like a normal line because probably not as many people were familiar with his character, but if you liked Age of Apocalypse, then you know Sugarman because he was pretty early on. So, and just look at his design. He's got the forearms, he's got his sugar hammer, he's got his tongue, just a weird looking guy, but just perfect for Build-A-Figure. His legs have almost no articulation, but his feet do. That's because they got to hold up that massive body with all those extra arms. And I know what you're asking yourself, and the answer is maybe. Did I rank him number 4 because his position in line is how many arms that he has? I can neither confirm nor deny, but it probably played a factor. One of the things about this character that I thought was interesting is his weapon, the hammer, just came with one of the pieces. That was the Build-A-Figure piece, which usually you get the kind of a body part, but whatever. And just from a massive size, it just compared him to the Thor figure. You can see what I'm talking about as far as Thor is tiny and this one is massive. So just my thoughts on that. And number 3, I think we all know who it's going to be. Just if you look at these, you can tell that Colossus is going to be next. So let's get him out here and take a look at our other Age of Apocalypse Build-A-Figure piece, which is Colossus. You might not have recognized him under that mask, but it is actually Colossus. The metal body was probably a dead giveaway, so there is that. But Colossus is probably one of my favorite of the X-Men characters. This is not my ideal form of him. I do like the more classic look of Colossus, but the Age of Apocalypse, I enjoyed his character in that. Had he been a Build-A-Figure of like the normal Colossus, just his massive scale, probably would have been a number 1 or number 2, but I still can't fault this figure. I've seen some people actually do customs of taking the belt off his body, and then they swap out the head and they put like the normal classic view of Colossus on there. It looks really cool. So for those out there that do enjoy a good customizing action figure, have at it. His leg joints are a little bit stiff in my opinion. This does happen with some of the bigger figures, but he's so massive and his other joints hold pretty well, so you can stand him and pose him pretty easily once you kind of work through those tough joints. And this Colossus figure, in my opinion, is probably one of the most posable of the large figures. You can get a lot of character and personality that kind of comes out. You can see he's just massive. He's got that face. You can see why he's a top 3 figure. I would say this Colossus would steal the show. I guess if it wasn't for Strong Guy and Soarin, then he would probably rank higher. But those two, in my opinion, are the number 1 and number 2. And I had a really tough time figuring out who was my number 1 of these two. In my opinion, they're both 10 out of 10 figures. They're both absolutely perfect. They capture the personality of each of the characters, the detail, the design, and I have a personal connection to each of these. Their 2 figures from the Toy Biz line were 2 of my favorite toys, so I thought I'd bring them out just to be part of the display. So we have Soarin, who is giving me issues standing up. He's usually flying, so on his feet he's not as comfortable. And then Strong Guy with his arms that go back and forth, which I guess most toys do, but he does it with style. Yeah, so each of these characters would love to see their larger counterpart win, but only one can. So who's it going to be? Strong Guy or Soarin? So coming in at number 2 is Strong Guy, which like I said, I went back and forth. I was tempted. This design just really pops for me. It's got that cartoonish look. It's clean. His facial expression, just his massive body, just everything about this is just so perfect for the character. Look at that face. It's just perfect. He's also a character that really stands out amongst the collection just because, one, he's just massive, but the yellow pops, and he's got the bald head, the wisp of hair. He's ready to punch things. So from a Build-A-Figure standpoint, that's why he's ranked so high. He really does. You look at him and you're like, wow, that is a figure. And it makes building the line, the Build-A-Figure, worth it, because you don't mind picking up those pieces to get that extra leg, extra arm, and putting them together, because at the end of the day, you have this piece that you've just essentially got for free. I know you pay a premium on the other figures, but putting it together, it really does inspire you to complete the line. So this was one of those ones where I didn't get things on clearance. I just wanted to build a figure, so I was able to get those figures. I ended up getting rid of some of the other characters in there, but I was really after this Build-A-Figure. Oh, And he's a little bit top heavy, so every now and again he will make a mess. And he has knocked over tons of figures on my shelf before. So didn't have anything to do with his ranking in place though, which leaves our number one, the winged dinosaur himself, Soarin, and articulated jaw, which definitely had something to do with it. Love a good articulated jaw on a character. And he's got the movable wings, just everything about this character. I love the X-Men. I love just Soarin when they did the storylines with him. They don't use him a lot. I think they used him in the Savage Land storyline. Pretty underused, in my opinion, in the comics. They could probably use him a little bit more. He's usually like a henchman, but he could really carry his own. And yeah, just like I said, the jaw had a lot to do with it. The massive size, the wingspan, and just everything just looks perfect. It's one of the more like detailed, realistic looking figures versus some of the more comic or cartoonish, kind of like Strong Guy, in my opinion, was very comic. This one is more realistic. The detail on him, you can just see on the wings, it looks like an actual lizard wing. So you just stretch it out. It's got the 3 points of articulation just on the wing to make it just move on the wrist and the elbow, so that you can really expand it, and it kind of contracts as you put his arms down, which is just such an amazing feature. And it makes where you can do so much with this character. I use him for a lot of my stop motions just because, one, he's got the articulated jaw, two, because I love him, and then three, he's a very unique figure. And this is by far my favorite Build-A-Figure piece that I have. So just putting him in a cool pose. There's some other Build-A-Figure pieces that I've been inspired to get, but I never actually finished them off. Like the Juggernaut one was really good. Thanos was really good. But it's really like there's a price and a desire. Some of the ones, I like the characters from the line that come in the Build-A-Figure piece, but if I'm not really inspired to finish them off. So this top 7 were, in my opinion, some of the best Build-A-Figure pieces that I really was inspired to finish off the set. I also have Gilgamesh from the Eternals line, so that was just a pure cost-saving thing. I was able to pick them up for very cheap because all of the characters eventually hit clearance once the movie was out of theaters. And some of the characters I liked, some of the actors that they were the likeness based off of. So I picked it up and I have no regrets. The price was right for that one. But for someone like Soarin, you ended up paying pretty much none of those figures ever hit clearance. So let's do a final roll call. We have our number 1, number 2, Soarin and Strong Guy. Number 3, we have Colossus. Number 4 is too heavy. I don't have the upper body strength to put Sugarman up back on here. So we'll just go straight to number 5, which is our Green Minotaur Rintrah. And a great looking crew right here. Now we have our Thor Ragnarok, Gladiator Hulk, and then our dude Thor. And this is, in my opinion, some of the best Marvel Legends Build-A-Figures out there. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.